Hey friends, it's Stephanie with Three Queens Resell, and in this video, I am going to share with you 5 factors I consider before I bring something home. So stay tuned.
Let me set the scene. We hustle hard, second green, living out the dream. From clothes to kicks, we got that vintage flair. You name it, we got it. All the styles you want to wear. Started small, now we...
Welcome in. If you are new here, I am Stephanie with Three Queens Resell. And if you are a reseller bestie, welcome back. Thanks so much for joining me. On this channel, I share my reselling tips and tricks. I have been reselling for 7 years now on Poshmark, eBay, Depop, and Mercari. And sometimes we get in a little live auction action with Whatnot and Posh shows. But today I wanted to answer one of the most pressing questions that people have been asking me over on the TikTok, and that is, how do you decide what to pick up to resell? Now, as a new reseller, it can be daunting when you get to the point in your reselling journey where you want to start sourcing. Now, you know my cardinal rule. Do not start sourcing, my new reseller besties, until you have exhausted the things in your home. You want to be well-versed on listing, looking up comps, photographing, and making sure that you aren't collecting those death piles of things and that you just like to shop, but you don't ever list anything. So once you are really in the space where it is time to start bringing in inventory to grow your reselling business and listing it, then that's where these 5 factors come into place. So this is one that I continue to struggle with even after 7 years, but it is to me the most important if you want quick flips and just to run a data-based business, and that is sell-through rate. So how fast is this item going to sell? Before buying, you need to check the sold comps versus what's listed. For instance, if there are 100 listed, but only 10 have sold, that has a 10% sell-through rate, and you want to leave it behind. Now, what is a good sell-through rate is going to depend on your availability, your cost of goods. You can decide, and how long you want to sit on it. I'm looking at that 90-day flip. And so I have really in the past 6 months tried to really focus on that. And I like for things to be in a 50% sell-through rate or better. However, I do source at the Goodwill bins a lot. And so if the item will flip for more than $30, I'll go down to as low as a 30% sell-through rate because I'm willing to hang on for it longer to get more money for it, if that makes sense. But you need to be checking the sell-through rate. So you don't want things that are never going to sell. So this is another one I hear people talking about a lot, and that is the profit margin. So you have to think about the profit margin of an item after fees. So to keep the profit margin in my favor, I like to source at the Goodwill outlet. Now our outlet is now up to $1.99 a pound, but when I started reselling 7 years ago, it was 99 cents a pound. So it was easier for me to pick up things and kind of experiment with them because I was getting the items so cheaply. Now at $2 a pound, I kind of think about it a little more, and plus I just don't want to have a bloated inventory of things that are never going to sell. So it's best to decide what kind of margin you want for yourself. Some people are like fine with anything as long as it's going to bring in a $5 or $10 profit. And some people want higher margins like 25 or more. I think I'm in that $15 to $20 profit because I source so heavily at the Goodwill outlet. I know that is going to be plentiful, and I'm a volume-based seller, so I want to sell more things at a lower price point. Brand and style demand is super important. There are certain brands that are going to fly off the shelf, and certain styles, and then things that are going to sit. So that's why it's important to stay up. I started following some fashion vloggers on TikTok and Instagram a few years ago, just because I'm not that fashionable now that I think about it. Or at least not that fashion forward. I can kind of copy, but I don't know what's projected ahead. So I wear what I wear and I like what I like. So if you have that mindset, then you're going to have to research what is current. For instance, Y2K was big, and I think it's still trending a little bit, but it wasn't like my jam. Had I not learned about that from researching other resellers and just fashion vloggers, I would have missed out on those trends and that style core aesthetic. So you're going to have to do some research season to season and stay current on brands and styles. If you want, there's always those classic basics that are going to sell, but those big money like Y2K pieces that people were selling, that's because they capitalized on a trend. Condition and quality. So people are buying pre-owned things, but the trick to being successful at selling pre-owned things is that they are super duper close to new. You wouldn't be able to tell that they were pre-owned. So you want to avoid things that show wear, that have a lot of peeling, especially if you're not going to sweat or shave, that aren't stained. New to excellent condition is what I prefer to sell. However, in my listings, they say good pre-owned condition unless it is new a tag. I like to under promise and over deliver so that there is no disappointment in the buyer. But you definitely want to check those items for stains and flaws. And if you're going to sell things that are stained or flawed, be sure to disclose that in the listing in writing, as well as taking close-up detailed photos. You don't want to be branded a liar or a schemer or tricky. And the last thing that I consider is size and category performance. I have said it in almost every video. Plus sizes do best for me in women's, particularly that 2 to 3X. So I love it when I run into a bin that has a lot of plus size, especially if it's like a plus size trendy piece, like a leather jacket or a cowboy jacket or some cool Fair Isle sweater for fall. So make sure you do your research, and when you look up comps, drill down to size, because there might be, when you're checking that sell-through rate, it might be oversaturated in smalls and extra smalls, but it might be a winner in plus sizing. So that's why I focus in on the size of items. So let's recap before I send you out to the Goodwill, to the wild, to source for things to flip for your reselling business. 1, you're going to consider sell-through rate. How fast is this going to flip? 2, you're going to consider your profit margins, especially if you're at a regular Goodwill. Do not pay $19.99 for a North Face coat. Unless you only want to double your money, but you could end up losing your money especially sourcing at some of these super expensive vintage shops and Goodwills. 3, make sure you look at the brand and the style demand. If it's something that people aren't looking for, or that's kind of faded out of style, just because it's a brand that you like doesn't mean people are searching for it. And if no one's searching for it, and it's not the right style aesthetic, it's going to sit forever. And then 4, consider that condition and quality. Try to only pick up things in excellent pre-owned condition or newer tags. Let's face it, if you don't like to sweat or shave, if you're not a seamstress that is going to sew things, leave those things behind. And if you do pick up flawed items and you want to resell them, which I strongly discourage, make sure you visually note it in the listing through the photograph, but you also put it in writing in the listing. This is going to save your butt, especially on eBay, when people want to return for item not as described. And then my 5th thing is look for those larger sizes. They tend to trend higher. At least look up comps on them. But it has been my category that women's plus size sells best for me, but also men's big and tall does well also. So those are my tips and tricks for going out in the wild to go sourcing. Let me know down in the comments what you think and if there's any you would add to the list. And I will see you in the next one.
Resell, let me set the scene. We hustle hard, second green, living out the dream. From clothes and kicks, we